The tyranny we have witnessed in Canada in recent weeks should shock and dismay people all over the world. In an advanced Western democracy, the peaceful movement of patriotic truckers, workers, and families protesting for their most basic rights and liberties has been violently put down. Their assets and life savings have been frozen. They have been slandered as Nazis, racists, and terrorists. These are the names they've been called. They've been arrested and charged with phony crimes. They've been falsely accused of loyalty to foreign powers. I watched them. I saw those maple leafs all over the flags and the love for their country. Plenty of Americans were there, too, and they love our country. They're being hunted down like enemies of their own government and treated worse than drug dealers and murderers or rapists. A line has been crossed. You're either with the peaceful truckers or you are with the left-wing fascists. And that's what's been happening. And it's been a strong line. We stand with the truckers and we stand with the Canadian people in their noble quest to reclaim their freedom.
Well, I think that the whole world has woken up to the fact that Justin Trudeau is certainly a socialist. He tramples on rights. And I think that people in the United States are a lot more cognizant of that these days since the trucker freedom rally and so forth. And it's kind of a cautionary tale because you cannot allow these left-wing politicians to trample our rights. And it's so nice to be in the U.S. where they really understand freedom.
I just finished speaking with Kerry Diot, former member of Parliament in Edmonton. We spoke about a few different topics. President Trump's speech, calling out Justin Trudeau and his dictatorial behavior. We also spoke about his loss in the recent Canadian election and how the Canadian Conservative Party could move forward. Check out the interview and check out rebelcpac.com for more. Hi, Kerry. What brings you here today? Do you want to?
Yeah, well, actually, I'm here covering the conference for Troy Media, which is a friend of mine is with that company in Edmonton, Alberta. And it's really great to see. One of the things that strikes me here is the fact that I've talked to so many Americans who are so much, they've really followed the trucker convoy and the freedom rallies. And it's amazing to me that they really understand freedom in the USA. They really do. They're shocked by what happened in Canada and the fact that a form of martial law was declared and bank accounts were frozen. It blows Americans away, and it should blow Canadians away for that matter.
We're holding after the Donald Trump speech, and he mentioned Canada and the Prime Minister. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that the whole world has woken up to the fact that Justin Trudeau is certainly a socialist. He tramples on rights. And I think that people in the United States are a lot more cognizant of that these days since the trucker freedom rally and so forth. And it's kind of a cautionary tale because you cannot allow these left-wing politicians to trample our rights. And it's so nice to be in the U.S. where they really understand freedom. They're going through a lot of crisis with Joe Biden. He's obviously a very weak president. You see what's happening in Ukraine. I really like that Donald Trump tonight, I think quite aptly said, if he was still president, Putin would not have been going into Ukraine. And I truly believe that. One thing about Donald Trump, they always joke that, he was going to start World War III or something. Well, he was one of the only presidents where there wasn't a war started. In fact, he helped to end some wars. So say what you will about Donald Trump. Maybe you don't like his personality. But I'll tell you one thing. I think he's absolutely right tonight. I think he's right in his speech when he said that Putin would have never dared to go into Ukraine when he was president. And I'm glad that he condemned the invasion. You've got right now you've got the U.S. President Biden talking about sanctions. Well, it's a little too late for that. I mean, Ukrainian members of parliament are having to pick up arms to repel the Russians. And so it's a very serious thing. It shows you how delicate our democracy can be. And I was over in Ukraine observing elections about their last presidential election. So it really hits me hard because I got to meet some people there and got to be friends with them. And it's so terrible to see what's happened to them.
And let's jump back to Canada with the War, not War Measures Act, but the Emergencies Act being implemented for, I guess, about 8 days. And the lead up to that was the truckers, right? But in the first week of the truckers convoy, Aaron O'Toole was ousted as leader. And what are your thoughts about Aaron O'Toole or the Conservative leadership in the last election that led to Justin Trudeau being re-elected?
Well, I was a supporter of Aaron O'Toole not once but twice when he ran for the party leadership, and I consider him a friend. I think that the beginning of the end started for Aaron when he went from true blue Conservative to something else, something quite different, and that really hurt. I think that hurt us at the doors. Coming in with something like that closely resembled a carbon tax. People didn't like that, and they turned against it. You've got to be true to your core beliefs. And as much as I admire him personally, I think that he tried to go to the squishy middle, and it didn't work. It clearly did not work. And I think it's time for a true Conservative. And I'm glad to see that we now have an interim leader in Candace, who's doing a great job. And I personally support Pierre Poilievre as leader. I think he's going to be a fantastic prime minister one day.
Will you be running again in an upcoming election?
Yeah, I have said very clearly. I've had the privilege of going back to the first caucus meeting after we lost, and it was one of the hardest things ever to go back to. But I told caucus at the time, I want to win. I want to run again, win that seat. I think it can be done. There are a whole host of things that probably worked against us, but I think Edmonton Griesbach is very winnable again. I think people are sick of this left-wing socialism that's crept into Canada, and they're ready for true blue Conservatives.
And what is your view on the PPC? Did that cause, in the numbers, it might have caused you to lose the election, but what is the answer for Conservatives in Canada for that?
Well, I think the PPC took advantage of the situation under COVID, and they got a lot of traditionally conservative voters, people who would have voted for us, who went to them because they came across very strongly on the COVID measures. So they took a good measure of voters away from us. I think that with somebody like Pierre Poilievre in the leadership, I've talked to a lot of people who say, if Pierre was running for you guys, I'm back in the fold. So I think that those people can be welcomed back into the fold of the Conservative Party of Canada, and I don't think it's a real stretch. I think that they are natural Conservatives, and they wanted a strong Conservative voice. I think they'll get that under Pierre Poilievre.
And do you think that the Conservative Party needs to move more to the right, or last election's policy, or was conservative enough?
I think that Canadians want somebody like a party that stands up for freedoms, for free speech, for family values, for community safety. Those are good Conservative values. And I think most Canadians, I know that there's the Liberals like to say that they're the natural governing party. I don't believe that for a moment. I think most Canadians are small C Conservatives, and I think that we can win them back again.
What do you think about the vaccine mandates and the travel mandates and all these COVID mandates in general?
Well, that became very divisive, obviously, and I think that Justin Trudeau played up on that divisiveness. He waited until a good measure of people in Canada were vaccinated to call an election so he could turn the vaccinated people against the unvaccinated people. Justin Trudeau is all about divisive politics, and he played people like a fiddle. And divisiveness. I mean, the great irony is he talks about where conservatives are decried as, oh, so divisive. It's the left and socialists that are most divisive politics and politicians on the face of the earth. And people are sick of that.
Thank you. Any other things you want to
No,
mention?
I think we've covered a lot of topics. And thanks for being down here, because I think that we need a strong media in Canada. And you know what? I know a lot of people deride rebel media, but you're here. You're at a conservative conference. There's 600 journalists at this conference, I'm told. And you're one of the few Canadian journalists here. And good for you for being here.
We're at CPAC speaking to politicians and people and asking them why they're here and a bunch of other questions. If you like what you see, check out rebelcpac.com for more.